Hi, guys. Welcome to another week of movie reviews.
I was about to say not enough thumbs.
Not enough thumbs. We didn't have really a theme for the movies we watched this week or this month even. We were just kind of...
Just more movies.
Yeah.
Randomly picked.
Favoring
haunted movies.
Though we did end up with 3 of those.
See?
Because he just can't.
Can't get away. It's like the ribeye. Can't get away from it. Food.
It's not all about food.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Anyway, all right. So, the first movie that we watched, we kind of saw it a couple weeks ago. We saw an advertisement for it a couple weeks ago at the theater, and kind of said, "Hey, when this becomes available, we want to watch this. Let's go steak. I'll take the potatoes." So we kind of wanted to watch this. Well, we noticed it was available on streaming, so we went for it. It is called A Haunting in Venice from 2023.
The trailer was really drew me in, mostly because of the setting of the film. It's just overall has a dark and mysterious feel to it, and this peculiar French guy with fancy mustache and pointy beard in one spot kind of thing, and just he was a skeptical when it came to supernatural things, and by skill he was an investigator.
Yeah, and you could tell he was definitely science-minded. Mm-hmm. He made it a point to prove everything that everyone else thought was ghostly or otherworldly.
Rational explanation for everything.
So he proved it scientifically or in an analytical way. So he actually discounted all of their supernatural beliefs about what was going on in this house, in this mansion.
I thought the plot overall was kind of slow. Would you say it was slow?
It was. Yeah, the story progressed slowly.
However, it managed to keep your attention because you were wondering what was coming next, and to see if somebody was trying to just pull off some grand hoax or if something a little more devious was going on.
Yeah. So as the plot unfolded, murders happened right in front of them. 2 people, I believe, died right in the mansion during the investigation. Yep. So the original reason for the investigation was that a girl had died there years before. She was thought to have committed suicide. And so the investigators were coming in, and something just didn't seem right with that thought of her committing suicide. So first they called in this lady to run the seance. So she was going to run the seance and speak to the spirit of the dead girl. And so that was apparently successful in the fact that the girl possessed the woman and then spoke through her for a little while. But then, unfortunately, that was the end of her because she was murdered right after that.
Yeah.
Because she had spoke that the girl... So when the girl possessed her, she said, "Murderer, I was killed. Murder, I was killed. So and so she repeated that.
Was real.
Yeah.
The possession part was real.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
But then the lady that ran the seance, she ended up getting killed because of that. So there was a ghost. The ghost of the girl who was killed was haunting the house.
Kind of sprinkled throughout the film.
Yeah. But the investigator still tried to rationalize all the things that were happening. And they're for good reason, because he was able to figure out who committed the murder. And it ended up in a very twisted way being the mother of the girl who had killed her.
It was her daughter.
It was her daughter. Yeah, well, that's what I said. The mother of the girl.
See? The daughter.
You're cute. But it was unintentional. they found out. I mean, it was still murder and she was still slowly poisoning the girl, but her intent was not to kill her, just to keep her sick so that she could control her.
Kind of like she didn't want her to leave.
Yes.
So there's
she was to be engaged to this man who was of high society. So he was well-to-do. And
there's a little bit of,
is this that dog medicine movie? No, this one was actually A Haunting in Venice is the movie that we're talking about. So it was a good mystery kind of.
There was a little bit of a Clue movie going on, and that who did it?
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a Sixth Sense going on where the daughter was slowly getting sickened, not by floor cleaner, but by something she was actually growing in the garden.
She was growing the flowers in the garden, and the bees were pollinating it and made the honey out of the poisoned flowers. So this poison honey was what she was using to add into the girl's tea to poison her. Well, the girl had woke up in a panic, and the nurse or the helper of the mom was there with her. The mother was not. And she thought, oh, the girl needs just extra honey in her tea.
Yep.
So she put a little too much honey in the tea, and that's what ended up killing the girl. So it was not an intentional murder, so to say.
Still an evil thing to do.
Yeah. And when the mother realized what had happened, she tried to cover it up. So she took the daughter's body, scraped it, because the thought was that there was this ghost of a child in the house already that would leave this mark of a scratch mark across the backs of their victims.
This just pushed her off,
which that was never proven, and there was no sign that was an actual thing. But so the mother did that, clawed the girl's back, and then threw her over the balcony into the water. So it looked like the girl had killed herself and drowned, but she was already dead before she hit the water.
I think the nice twist at the end was that the mother ended up dying by the same fate.
Imagine pretending to be a ghost to cover up a murder. Yeah, so it did end up showing at the end. The mother was found out to be guilty of harming her child, and they were going to take her away, and the mother ran outside. Well, when she ran outside, the ghost of the daughter actually grabbed her and threw her over the water and killed her. So karma got this mom.
The end reminded me of the ending of The Illusionist, when the investigator put everything together, and I think a similar thing happened in the movie Clue.
Yeah.
Right? Where the guy just kind of pieced it together while he had all the people in the house just kind of listening to him. And then you just see this look of guilt on the mother's face. And then she finally admits to everything.
Yeah. And there's some other little things that happen that were really interesting in the movie that we're not going to give away. So you're going to have to watch the movie to figure it out. But
we only give away the endings here.
Yep. Right.
Not the stuff
that you find that the investigator was becoming a target too of certain things. So they started going after him. So you have to watch and see what happens with that.
It's good. Yeah. I like the feel. It takes place in Venice. Venice is famous for all of its water pathways. Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy
So
people.
What would you rate The Haunting in Venice?
I'll give it a 7.
Okay. I would give it a 7 to 7.5 also. It was a pretty good suspenseful mystery kind of thing. And there was no gore. It wasn't super
good use of plot for the scare factor.
Yeah.
Good acting.
Bad mom died, 9 out of 10.
Tina Fey is in it, which I think she's from the Saturday Night Live crew. Yeah. And mostly tied to Funny Things. And I've never seen her in a serious film before.
Very serious role for her. Yeah. All right. The next movie that we watched again is Winchester. And we actually watched this movie last year and did a written review on this. But this year, our son wanted to watch a semi-scary movie with us. So we actually turned this one on because it was a good one.
Very similar theme.
Yeah. So there was in this house it was just really weird. It started out a normal sized house. This was from 2018, by the way. So this started out a normal sized house, but the woman in it who is Sarah Winchester. So she's the owner of the Winchester Gun Company. right? So that's a very famous gun company. So she was the owner, became the owner of that through her family line. And this home, she started having construction happen in this home and built room after room after room. So I think there was like 113
There's a lot of
rooms added to this house.
Very odd arrangement too. I think she had some kind of a deal where she just had to keep building on the house, right? Because the moment she stopped building, was there supposed to be something bad that was going to happen? Is that why she kept building?
Well,
she built for a long time.
It wasn't really known at first. So they actually, the authorities wanted to check in on her sanity, because who does this? Who takes this house and just randomly builds?
I mean, there were
constantly,
stairs.
never any built, and there were stairs that led to nowhere.
Yeah, just the ceiling
and just random things, and just constant construction going on in this building. So this woman spent all of her fortune on construction to this,
and all her life,
to this building. So there was wonder whether she was sane enough to be able to run the Winchester Company, which, being a gun company, you want somebody who's sane running it, right? So they actually said that she needed to be under investigation for claims against her sanity. So she hired in this investigator who had always been a skeptic about the supernatural and who was not a believer in any of those sort of things. He actually had his vices of his own. So he was addicted to drugs and other things. So she kind of had a twofold reason of hiring him. The first was that, over 100 rooms is crazy.
Yeah.
And if you see this, it's
a well-known haunted house, right? I mean, today.
Yeah, this is based off a true story.
So you'll see a lot of paranormal investigative teams go there, and they're entertaining.
Yeah. Many of the rooms are shut off to it, and the movie tells you why that is. You can only get into the main area and the museum that's within the house now.
I would totally go there. I think we would totally go there.
Yeah, for sure.
Pennsylvania?
I think Pennsylvania? So.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the investigator, so Sarah Winchester had a twofold reason for hiring this specific investigator. First, she wanted to get him away from his vices, and she figured she could do it by telling him he needed to be clean to do this investigation, right? And the second thing is, he was a skeptic. So she knew that he would see what's really going on and vouch for her sanity, that she wasn't insane, that there's just things going on within this house.
Yeah, he was carrying around some guilt himself, right? Related to his wife. Was it something like that?
I don't know.
He carried that bullet in his pocket.
I don't know if it was his guilt necessarily, but just sadness.
Oh, okay. Couldn't let go of something.
Yeah, because it was her that shot him and then shot herself.
Oh, okay.
So she was haunting his dreams and things like that, his wife. But anyway, so he goes to this house. Do you want to explain it more? You don't want to do all the talking?
No, go ahead. I can't remember too much.
So he goes to this house, and she introduces herself and kind of tells him, that she's constantly building this room. Well, they kind of hint that throughout it, you're seeing different images of these supernatural beings that are popping up. Like, he looked into the mirror and he saw behind him a vision of a ghost that was in the house. That they all looked, well, almost all of them looked like they were dressed in old clothing.
They all definitely look dead.
They had something, reason that they died was visible on them. And so throughout it, you find out that each of the rooms that she was building in this house was to house the ghost of a person killed by a Winchester rifle.
Like 13 ghosts. They were all contained.
So they would all come to her because she was the owner of Winchester. They would all come to her with their anger and their aggression and their just unfinished business about dying from a bullet from a Winchester gun.
What is it with the unfinished business? They all have unfinished business.
That's why they're here. Once their business is finished, they leave.
So lesson learned, finish your business.
Finish your business before you die. Then you don't have to get stuck here. Anyway, so yeah, so that's what he ends up learning, and a few of these ghosts come back. Well, there ended up being like a head guy, a head ghost or whatever that was kind
Yep.
of disturbing the peace of all the others. So most of the ghosts lived there in their room peacefully. So the rooms each were created to look like the room in which the person had been killed. So the rooms were designed to look like the room they died in.
So weird.
And this was how they got their peace, or they were happily contained within this environment. And then the rooms were all
They were locked,
boarded
right?
up or locked tight so that the ghosts could not escape from, I guess, their forever torment in this
Yep.
room where they died.
Sounds great.
But anyway, one of the ghosts got out. I don't know that it really explained how, or when he first came, maybe he hadn't been contained yet, but he was a soldier.
Somebody had undone the boards, right?
Okay, maybe I forget all the little details, but he somehow escaped from his enclosure, and he was wreaking havoc on them. Like, that took the nephew of Sarah Winchester's and tried to get him to walk off the balcony of the building, which he would have walked to his death. But the investigator was down below and caught the child. So he didn't end up dying, but he would put a grain sack over the head of the child. Well, you find out later that he was in the war. I forget, it said what war, but I forget what war.
Civil
Maybe
War?
so. He was in the war, and he had a grain sack put over his head before he was to be executed. And it ended up being that his brothers were all shot in front of him, and then he was shot. And so he was angry, and it was by, of course, they were all shot by a Winchester, and it showed the
not a brain sack, a grain
sack, not a brain.
Yeah. Think
grain.
burlap sack, coffee bag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the investigator, because of his trauma being shot, something about the soldier was drawn to him because the investigator was shot by a Winchester bullet also, and he had the bullet refurbished and inscripted with a saying from his wife, because that's what he was shot with.
Yeah, forever something, I think.
Yeah. And so that was one thing that Sarah Winchester said to him. She said, things that harm someone like this can disturb the peaceful, or can, bring evil to you. And so she was hinting that because he kept that bullet, this soldier was drawn to him.
And that was the only thing that could kill him, right?
Yeah.
It was like the silver bullet almost.
Yeah.
It wasn't literally a silver bullet, but figuratively like the silver bullet.
Yeah, because he became attached to him somehow. Yeah. And so he actually had to use that bullet that he got refurbished to shoot it at the ghost and killed the ghost. And that gave the house peace again. And then it continued, and Sarah Winchester continued to build houses.
Continued building. Now it's a fun house. Died. Yeah.
It's just crazy. Very, very well done. Mystery, drama, supernatural.
Great setting and ambiance to the film. Just kind of creepy. And it's I guess kind of a periodic piece. Takes place in that period.
Yeah. Older setting.
Almost a westerny feel to it.
Yeah.
With their wardrobe and everything.
So I enjoyed this. Even the second time watching it, I really enjoyed it. And I think I might have enjoyed it even more because I kind of understood what was going on. And after we watched it last year, we looked into Sarah Winchester and the home and kind of looked up some of the history of that and the museum within it and all that kind of stuff. So it's really neat. It's a really neat movie to watch. I would recommend it. I would give it an 8.
I would probably give it a 7.5. I would actually have to watch it again because when they watched it this time around, I was just out of the house. And so I think we were somewhere else.
All right. So check that one out. That one's a good one. The next one, of course, was also a horror movie because he just can't stop himself. He can't help it. It was called 13 Ghosts. It was actually one we intended to watch for October month, but we didn't get around to it. Rented it from the library. He had seen it in the past.
It's got Shaggy.
What are you doing?
Oh, we just got shot. Hey, put that toy away.
That's what you get when you have kids in the house and you're doing a live.
Yeah, that was the 16-year-old.
Oh, anyway, so 13 Ghosts. You go ahead and describe. This is from 2001.
It's got Tony Shalhoub, who was the lead in the series Monk, very good series, and it also has the actor that played Shaggy from not Ghostbusters, Scooby-Doo. Who else was in it? That's all that I remember. At least that I can reference other movies to. Okay, so
Shannon Elizabeth.
Shannon Elizabeth. Okay,
Stephanie
she might have been in American Pie.
Yes.
So the premise is the beginning of the movie shows these guys trying to catch what you learn to be a ghost. So, and it kind of reminded me of, I'm drawing a blank.
Of what?
The beginning. Oh yeah, it reminded me of Jurassic Park when they were trying to capture the raptors. Oh, this time it's a ghost, and it's a really bad ghost. One of the meanest ones. And so, going back to Monk's character,
Yes, we did get stream sniped.
It turns out that he has some kind of connection to this house, and so he's got this relative,
his uncle,
who died, and then the house became his. And so the family had been in a financial pickle, so they were led to this house and shown, hey, this is what has been left to you.
They inherited. Yeah, they were
told
they
have an inheritance.
And say they had never seen the house. They knew nothing about this house. So they walk up to this thing.
Yeah, and it's all glass.
It's all glass. I mean, just floor upon floor upon floor of just glass.
Yeah. And so they're walking around, but when they get there, you got the Shaggy character. Yeah, I'll call him Shaggy. And he is posing as an electrician. He's not. He was really a partner with the uncle trying to hunt all these ghosts down because hunters. He's got this sensitivity to seeing ghosts. And so he's at the house and he knows that this family is coming and he's trying to keep them out. And he's trying to learn more about what's inside the house. And it's called 13 Ghosts because it turns out that they needed one more being
elite, it was called 13 Ghosts because they had captured 13 ghosts.
12. And
they had captured. Yes, yeah. You're right. So they needed 13 ghosts to perform this ritual that opened up the portal to hell.
Yeah.
Basically.
Good idea.
So that's what everybody wants to do. But this guy was psycho. The main character's uncle was the one who is the head of this thing, and he was just psychotic. And the Shaggy guy had no idea that was the plan, that this was what he was helping him catch all these ghosts for. He was just doing it because he was broke, and this was easy money for him to get to catch these beings.
Yeah.
Well, each room in the basement of this house housed these ghosts, and each one of them,
I like Winchester,
sort of, but each one of them were angry and evil and capable of major destruction. They were all but one was murderous.
they were kept in these glass containment units, if you will, and there was all of these writings on the wall. Our light died.
Our light went out because
my light. So that's what was keeping them in.
Yeah.
And then they had picked up the sack of money that was in there. This is like the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark action where he pulls off the sack of treasure, and then that triggered this house in motion. I think the laptop is
there. Now you have to switch the light back on.
And so now the house has been set in motion, and technical difficulties. And these doors start to open one by one.
So there's literally a giant gear in the center of the house.
Yeah.
That has several circles that turn, and they turn in different directions. Each time that the gear is activated and the circles turn, a different door in the basement is opened. So sometimes it can be, and it reconstructs the figuration of the house.
Yep.
Completely, because all these doors then open and other doors close.
It's like streets and alleys.
And so the family and their friends who were in there, who were stuck in this house, after they went into the house, the doors to the house locked, so they could not get out.
Yeah, they're trapped now.
They were trapped within the home. So throughout this, they're either exploring the house or figuring out what is going on, and they're getting separated from each other because these glass panels are coming up between them as this house is rotating.
So that's the rest of the story. Them trying to escape the house and figuring out essentially how to disarm the portal from being opened.
So the one chill ghost ended up being the wife of
the
main character, of the monk character. And she had died of an illness in the hospital just weeks before this. So she was the one good one that was needed for the ritual. But it ended up being that at the end, in order to stop this whole process and break what was happening and prevent the portal from opening, he had to show sacrificial love. So he had to jump in and
oh my word, yeah, you had these fast moving gears that would shred you to bits,
and they were flying up over the kids were put into the center of the gears, and then there was these things flying over the kids' heads, and so they were kind of sitting in the middle. By kids, I mean there was one teenage girl and then one younger kid who was probably 9 or 10 years old,
and their housekeeper, I think,
and the
nanny. She was,
only the two were put in the middle. Only the two kids were put in the middle.
Oh, that's right, yeah,
because he wouldn't have went in for the nanny.
So he had to time it just right, and it was not even a second.
But he was willing to go for it. So he went for it, and he actually was able to stop the whole process by figuring out how the gears worked and how to get in there and get it stopped. So he was able to.
And that was kind of the end of the story.
Yeah.
They lived happily ever after. The house was destroyed at that point.
And the ghosts released.
Yeah, and then everybody was at peace now and not disturbing anybody anymore. They went into the forest.
It was a very interesting movie. It was very interesting. It kept my attention. I kept watching, and the ghosts were evil. I mean, they were coming after the people and actually physically harming the people. So
good makeup job. Oh, and they can only see them if they have these special glasses on.
Right. Yeah, that's the part I forgot about. So they had to wear these glasses, these ghost vision glasses. Otherwise, these things were happening to them, but they had no idea. They couldn't see the people. So, my thought is, I don't want to put those glasses on. I don't want to see these beings. But then the beings started clawing them or choking them.
Then you kind of want to know where they are.
Then you're like, okay, well, I guess now I want these goggles. I want to be able to see what's coming at me and what's hurting me. But I mean, they were evil looking beings. So
yeah, it was a pretty good movie. Good makeup jobs on all of the creepers.
Yeah. Good design job for sure. So I would probably give that one an 8. I thought it was good.
I agree. I'll give it an 8.
Okay, so check that one out. And then I told him I was done with horror movies for a while. So the rest of the week, we picked other things. So I actually picked the next movie, which I'm not sure I should be the movie picker because it was really weird. The name of the movie was Downsizing from 2017. So
funny.
It was something.
Downsizing.
Downsizing. So this one had Matt Damon.
And somebody else.
Yeah. I don't forget who the female actress was, but it was mainly Matt Damon as the main person in this. So basically what this movie was about was the earth was getting overpopulated. There was way too many people. So
we've heard this story before. Earth's coming to an end.
Right.
And they're always working on it to try to figure out a way to have less of an impact on our planet.
Right. So junk, there's too much trash, there's too much junk. So they were trying to come up with this plan to produce less waste. So these scientists got together and figured out how to shrink people.
Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
So they tested it on a group of 36 people who were the main crew or whatever they called them.
And they became the first, what did they call them? Was it, they weren't
The first little people. I mean, small
little people?
They,
Maybe
forget what
maybe
they,
the littles or something.
the littles or something
weird
like that they called them.
It's a weird movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. So
Thanks for
anyway,
joining us for a little while.
Yeah. So yeah, check out the rest of our live later. Go back and watch it. But so they this husband and wife, they decide, okay, well, we have a lot of debt, and somebody told them, hey, if you get downsized, then your money is worth way more, right?
Because they actually had some equity. Yeah, a little bit, but
so they're I think it was 130,000 or something was all they had
was
to their
net
name.
worth.
And then when they were downsized, it would be worth 12.2 million.
Because you're consuming less, and so there was some kind of scale factor that your dollars normal size equated to a much larger amount when you're teeny tiny size.
Yeah. So the couple decided, okay, why not? We might as well, then we don't have to work anymore. Yeah. And they were probably in their mid-30s.
Yeah, young couple, middle-aged, well, it was a young couple. Yeah. Because the wife was really wanting to go into a newer home, right?
Yeah.
She wanted to move out of their small place.
So she wanted more than they could afford. So she was the one that actually persuaded him to agree to do this. Well, then they go to the medical facility to have the procedures done to get shrunk. They got separated because, they did men together, shrunk the men together, and they would shrink the women together. Well, so the man goes off with the other men, and they get all their hair shaved off. So anywhere that they have hair is shaved.
And then they were
everywhere.
They were put under
eyebrows, everything. And if they had any metal or anything that was artificial to their body, so not originally, yes.
Even they balls.
Yes.
Because his balls was hot. Of UFC fighters.
So they took out his crowns and his teeth that had fillings, things like that.
And we have any of that in there. And we were wondering, why are they doing that? We didn't know why at the time, and then
you find out later.
On, you understand later, yeah.
Because one of the husbands to a different character ended up exploding because they forgot one of the teeth. So his head exploded when they did the procedure.
So it sounded like inorganic things had to be taken out. So now I understand why that one person that had the hip replacement couldn't go.
Right. Because they had metal pins, and so their body would explode. Go. Yeah. So anyway, Matt Damon's character gets downsized. So he goes, well, he gets a call then from the little people facility where he was.
When he first wakes up.
Yeah. And it's his wife saying, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through with it.
She's got no hair and one eyebrow.
And then she freaked out and said, no, I can't do this. I'm going home to my parents.
And he doesn't understand at first that that she was
abandoned him.
Yeah. Depression.
Yeah. So then he's like, well, great. She was the one that wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And now I'm here in this ginormous house by myself.
Because it's an irreversible process.
Yep. I couldn't go back.
This is a huge commitment.
So then the next thing you see is it's a year later and he gets divorce papers from his wife. So she decides to leave him. And so he, it kind of shows him figuring things out and kind of getting used to the new.
He had some crazy party neighbors.
Yeah.
Made a friend.
But he ended up doing drugs too and experimenting with that and all these different things. And he ended up, when he was big, he helped people. He was not a doctor or anything like that, but he researched things. And so he liked to help people, help them with their ailments, help them to feel better, help them physically.
Because he was an occupational therapist.
He was an occupational therapist, but that wasn't what he was doing. He was working at Omaha Steaks.
That's what he did at Omaha Steaks. There's a job for everyone at Omaha Steaks.
So he started doing this in the little world too. Well, then you find that there's the slums and there's the homeless and there's all of that.
So because the pitch,
like in Big World,
the pitch, because they were trying to convince everybody to do this for the planet's sake, right?
Yeah.
But
But
like
you end
what she
up finding
said.
out that they were sending people who couldn't afford
Hmm.
to live. They had so much debt, or the government considered them a burden to society, so they would shrink them and send them.
It's awful, awful. So you still have these
So there was
social
double-sided
classes. Yeah,
thing to this whole operation. So
yeah.
in one side they have like this, they market it as this luxury thing, but then on the other side they're doing this to people as a punishment for being low in society.
I mean, it was absolutely a positive sell, and it was all about selling the luxury part of this lifestyle.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a little more to that story. You find out that the original crew is kind of cultish also.
Yeah,
And
they're the planet savers. They want to do everything.
yeah, so they end up going underground even farther. This original crew of the shrunken, downsized people, they end up burying themselves and going underground to this bunker that they created where they could live for, what was it, like
the next 5,000 years.
5,000 years or something like that. So they were never going to see the sunlight again for 5,000 years.
And so they all
Matt
watch-
Damon's character almost went with them,
Yeah.
but he fell in love with this Vietnamese lady.
Yeah.
That convinced him to stay.
And so they all watched the sunset one last time, and that was that. They went into their tunnel, and like she said, he had developed a relationship with another woman there, and his crazy party neighbor friend, and then there was another person.
Yes, she was really bad at speaking English. She had a really, really strong accent. It was tough.
If you've ever seen the stand-up comedian Angela Johnson, she
mimics the Vietnamese nail salon people, and she sounds just like
spot on.
Yeah. So anyway, it was an interesting movie.
So it touches on the theme of, would you do everything it takes to save the planet? Is it worth sacrificing all of those relationships that you would leave behind? Because that was what it drove home at the end of the movie. Do you want to just survive, or do you actually want to live? They kind of touched on this in WALL-E as well, the Disney movie, right. WALL-E.
And there was a few times we said, man, this reminds us of WALL-E.
Yeah. Yeah, are you just really trying to keep humanity alive, or you actually want to
the song from
live
WALL-E?
life? They did. You're right. Yeah, this is a song that they played at the introduction to WALL-E. They played this.
So we'll just call this real life version of WALL-E.
Yeah,
because that's kind of what it was. So what would you rate it?
I give it an 8.
Oh my word!
It was hilarious, and because we see people talk about this all the time. You have to eat the bugs. You have to eat your babies, all for the sake of the planet, and it's. These people are kind of thinking along the same lines. Was it that? Yeah. So it's weird, but it's really, there were some really funny things about.
Yeah, they were able to have babies even shrunken. That was going to be my biggest thing, was, can they reproduce when they're metabolically completely changed? But yeah. It showed, and they actually made it a spectacle of the boy who was the first one born in the downsized world. And
he had a reputation for
being
having sex with everything, including animals. And so when they showed him, he
might have been born downsized, but he was not normal. But yet showed him with an STD.
Yeah.
All over his face, which is lovely.
It was really weird.
Really lovely. Anyway, I would probably give it a 6. I would not give it an 8. It was something.
There were some. I wish I could remember some of the funny things that they did that pertain to living the little people life. But,
yeah. It was an interesting watch.
Yeah.
So give it a chance if you dare. The next one we watched was requested by our girls, The Grinch from 2018. So it was the animated version of The Grinch. We needed a little snippet of Christmas before Thanksgiving.
It's really hard to beat the Jim Carrey version.
Jim Carrey version of The Grinch is definitely my favorite. So this one's okay. I like how the characters look in this one. They have kind of a cute, unique look to it. Animals is crazy. It's gross.
Yeah.
And we kind of both went, ooh, when we heard that part. But anyway, the Grinch. So the characters are cute in this one. So it's kind of an animated remake of the original
I think
Grinches.
all of the elements of the story are there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's cute. It's a cute remake, but still my favorite is the Jim Carrey version of the Grinch, which I'm sure we will review at some point in December.
I'm not sure there were many differences between that and the Jim Carrey version from as far as the elements of the story go.
Yeah, a little bit of variation in the story, but I mean, it's the Grinch story, so it's going to be about the same.
He turns around at the end, and I feel like it's still very emotional in the end, which that's kind of the whole point.
So this one, I would probably give it a 7. It's cute. It's a cute one. It's not my favorite version of the Grinch, but it's cute. So I would give it a 7.
I'll give it a 6.5.
Okay. That's
for
fair.
A little bit of variety of scoring.
Okay. And then we always hit on a series. So I actually got through a 13 episode series this week myself. He didn't watch, I think, any of the episodes with me. Did you?
The Once Upon
Once Upon a Time in Wonderland from 2013. It's not a sequel, but it's a spin-off from the original series Once Upon a Time, which I really enjoyed when it first came out and watched all of it. It was longer than this. It was longer than the 13 episodes. And it was just kind of a modge-podge of all the different Disney characters,
which I thought was interesting. I was surprised to see Jafar.
Real life. Yeah.
Jafar was
so
there.
This one basically had the characters from Aladdin and Alice in Wonderland. Mm-hmm. So it had kind of a mixture of those two characters. It had the evil queen, the Queen of Hearts.
And Alice was wielding a bow and arrow, right?
Or a sword. No, a sword. Alice had a sword. So, and the genie, Aladdin was not in it, but the genie was. And Jafar was the main evil in this.
Yeah.
Even though the evil queen made her appearance towards the end, Jafar was the main villain that was represented in this. So it was good. It kind of, in the beginning, it showed the typical Alice story of Alice, falls down this hole, the rabbit hole, and meets the white rabbit and goes through all of this, and she gets sent back to the world. And then it kind of shows these snippets of her interaction, and she would go back and forth then between Wonderland because it was kind of her safe place, and she would go and then at one point it shows her coming back, and she's pretty much an adult. I mean, she had to be early 20s, maybe mid 20s, but she wasn't received. It's like her dad didn't. Oh wait, did the original evil queen come? Yeah, the original evil queen from the first Once Upon a Time made an appearance in here right at the end, because if from the original Once Upon a Time, she would steal hearts. She stole the hearts from people. So she had stolen the heart from Will, who was the Knave of Hearts. But you don't find that out till like the last episode. So you wonder why he kind of has a disconnect from compassion and disconnect from emotion. He's not able to love, even though, others try to love him. And you don't really understand why until pretty much the end, when the evil queen makes her appearance. And it showed that way back when Anastasia, who became the Queen of Hearts, right? What a great plot twist. So Anastasia becomes the Queen of Hearts for money. So she ends up marrying the King of Hearts upon just a last minute spur of the moment decision when she was there to steal the crown. So she was actually there to thieve the crown so that they could sell it, and she and the Knave of Hearts could run off and be happy together. Well, she ends up giving in for money and marries the King of Hearts, and then kind of ditches the Knave of Hearts. Well, then he was sad and stumbles into the evil queen, and she tells him that she can release him from this pain and take his heart, but it's that he would never be the same again. He said, I don't want to feel this hurt. So do what you need to do. So she rips his heart out and puts it in a box. And apparently fairy tale characters can live without a heart. I guess it's a thing. But then he couldn't love. He had no compassion, no emotion, no ability to love. So it was well written, and it kind of plays out that Jafar, kind of in the original, how Jafar is shown in the cartoon versions, that he wants to be the supreme power. He wants to be this eminent sorcerer. He wants to take over everything that he can and be as powerful as he possibly can be. But what he finds out is with that comes some negative too. So he had to betray everybody that he could ever be close to. And he made way more enemies than he made friends, clearly.
How many seasons was it?
This one was only 13 episodes.
Really?
Yeah, only 13 episodes. So I watched it within a few days.
And then they finished it, right?
Yeah.
They wrapped up.
So it was interesting that they included a Jabberwocky into this, which it
was a dragon, right?
Well, so it's a mythical creature capable of evil that twists the mind.
Oh, okay.
So in this, it was a female. It was a beautiful woman who was kind of a seductive temptress, sort of, in this. So, but I had not known of any Disney movies to include the Jabberwocky, so it was really interesting.
There was a really old Alice, had to have been an Alice series when I was a kid, came up on network TV, and they did talk about the Jabberwocky.
Yes, the evil queen was still evil. She was still very conniving and very much wanting to be on top of everything, wanting to be the ultimate control, wanting to take over. So she intended to come after Jafar and knock Jafar down. And that's why she ended up reuniting with the Knave of Hearts, and she gave him his heart back. But that ended up being the detriment of Anastasia, and she ended up getting killed because of that. And but she was revived at the end, and the Knave and Anastasia get married, and Cyprus, the genie, and Alice get married and have a daughter. And so at the end, they reminisce about Wonderland and all that they experienced there, and kind of wrote the story so their daughter could read what was going on. So it was before the original Once Upon a Time. I don't know if it was before. I would say it was probably simultaneous with it, because it kind of showed snippets of the evil queen with her heart thievery of other people. So I think it maybe was going on simultaneously with what was going on. And it actually talked about the town in the original Once Upon a Time, Storybrooke. So it talked about them going to Storybrooke, and that's where Will was from. So they actually went back to Will, or the Knave of Hearts, home in Storybrooke, and got some things. And that's how they were able to draw the evil queen to get his heart back, because they realized that that's why he couldn't love, was because his heart was stolen. And so, yeah. So they intertwined the two series together, which was really kind of neat. So I enjoyed it. I didn't want to stop watching it. I wanted to keep watching episode after episode. So
what I saw of it was interesting.
Yeah. So it was, it was definitely good. I would, if you liked the original Once Upon a Time, I would say definitely give this one a watch. It's a quick, watch. Really, really good. Kept my attention. I wanted to keep watching it. If you have not watched the original Once Upon a Time, very, very good. Very good. Until the very last few episodes. Then it got weird. They just brought in some weird stuff. They were trying to bring in these other characters that just didn't make sense. And the last few episodes, I would say, are not great. But
I like how it's one season. Even though I didn't watch it, when a series decides to keep it short and sweet.
They ended it. So there was no way that they could continue on with it. They ended with Jafar. Like in the original, Jafar becomes the genie. Then he becomes captivated and a servant to all, because he was evil to all. So it was, he got the curse upon him, and that's how it ended, kind of like in the Aladdin story. So
cool.
Yeah, it ended. I don't know if they'll do any other spinoffs. I would guess not. This spinoff was from 2013, so I would guess they're done with it. But I would say definitely a series to go back and watch. It was good. I would probably give it a 9.
Awesome.
Yeah, I liked it. It was good. All right, so that's all we have for you today for our reviews. We did get through quite a few, so it was some good watching this week. we have no idea what we're going to be
Interesting
watching next
movies,
week.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And we're going to be traveling next weekend. So our live might look like dark in the car on the road. I'm not
Somebody
sure, but
else's
we are gonna come
house.
live. We'll show up at 9:30. So come back and
Yeah.
catch us at 9:30. It might look different, but that's okay. You'll hear our voices and see what you can see of us. So hopefully you enjoyed our review. Jump on and listen to our post that we'll do on Tuesday
Yep.
on The Longest Yard from 2005. So check out what we think about that one. An oldie but a goodie. So, all right, we'll catch you next week, same time, 9:30.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Bye.